Hello, everyone, and welcome to this explainer. In a world where major economic shocks seem to just roll in every other Tuesday, how do we actually plan ahead? Well, today we're unpacking something that completely flips the script on that question. We're looking at the brand new Assets Barometer Q1 2026 report. This thing is a serious deep dive into business resilience, agility, and growth, and it reveals an absolutely massive paradigm shift in European business strategy. So if you're wondering how the most successful companies are future-proofing themselves right now, you're exactly where you need to be.
Okay, let's dive right into this. We're going to break this down into 5 logical steps. First, we'll establish the Q1 2026 baseline. Then, we'll look at economic sentiment and performance. From there, we'll uncover the new pillars of resilience, which leads us right into the AI and digital divide. And finally, we'll wrap up with the capability gap.
So, step 1. The Q1 2026 baseline.
To really grasp the sheer magnitude of this strategic shift, we've got to understand our starting point. Who exactly was surveyed? We're talking about the insights of 1,768 distinct business leaders. And look, in the world of C-suite benchmarking, a sample size that massive is a really big deal. It completely cuts through the noise of anecdotal complaints or one-off success stories, giving us hard, market-moving realities that we can actually trust.
And the geographic scope here is serious. These leaders span 6 key European markets: the UK, Ireland, Denmark, Finland, Norway, and Sweden. Why does that matter? Well, these markets are heavily integrated into global trade and are known for really aggressive tech adoption. They basically act as a highly accurate bellwether for broader economic trends. It makes this benchmarking data a remarkably credible playbook for the rest of the world.
So the crucial point is the timing. This data is literally a time capsule. The fieldwork was completed in February and March of 2026, meaning it gives us this incredibly pure look at corporate strategy right before the major geopolitical shockwaves of the US-Israel conflict with Iran hit the markets. Context is absolutely everything, and this baseline captures exactly how leaders were positioning their companies right before a massive, unpredictable disruption.
Moving on to step 2, economic sentiment and performance.
Now that we know who we're looking at and when, the sheer level of optimism recorded right before those shocks might actually blow your mind. A massive 75% of these leaders were optimistic about the economic outlook. I mean, despite the inflation concerns, the supply chain jitters, and all the macro headwinds we've been talking about for years, 3/4 of the C-suite were staring down the road ahead not with fear, but with aggressive confidence.
And that optimism, it wasn't just blind hope. It was totally backed up by the balance sheet, with 81% reporting strong financial performance. But we've got to look a bit deeper here. Beneath that massive 81% umbrella, the report shows some intense regional variations. It basically tells us that highly tailored, localized strategies were absolutely crushing the generic one-size-fits-all approaches. Still, the overall picture is undeniably one of serious financial strength.
All right, step 3, new pillars of resilience.
And this brilliantly illustrates the core paradigm shift of our whole explainer. How are these successful companies redefining survival? For the longest time, resilience literally just meant hoarding cash, building up a massive war chest for a rainy day. But that paradigm is entirely flipped. Today, operational agility and leadership capability officially outrank cash reserves as the ultimate pillars of resilience. Because honestly, in a modern world of instant supply chain shocks and crazy AI disruption, a mountain of cash is completely useless if your company is simply too slow to pivot. The new resilience is all about reflexes, not just resources.
Which naturally brings us to step 4, the AI and digital divide. Let's look at the engine driving all that new operational agility. We are seeing a rapid, incredibly aggressive push to build out tech stacks. We've got 65% of businesses ramping up their AI investment, which is basically neck and neck with the 66% boosting broader digitization. These leaders aren't just buying software for the fun of it. They are literally buying the reflexes they need to survive and achieve those new pillars of resilience. Now, what's really interesting about this finding is the catch. Adoption is incredibly uneven. You see, just throwing money at AI does not magically make you agile. This uneven adoption is actively tearing open a massive digital divide right now. The companies integrating these tools deeply into their everyday workflows are pulling exponentially ahead. Meanwhile, the ones treating tech as just some superficial band-aid, they are falling dangerously behind no matter how many millions they're spending. And that brings us to our final step, the capability gap.
So we've seen the data, we understand the new rules of resilience, and we see this stark digital divide opening up. Now it's time to turn the mirror on your own operations. Based on this 2026 baseline, you've got to ask yourself, is your resilience strategy actually ready for what's coming? Are you relying on an outdated cash hoarding model when you should be laser focused on agility and leadership? And honestly, looking at how uneven AI adoption is out there, do you have a critical capability gap within your own ranks? The businesses that are going to dominate the next decade are the ones facing these questions head on today. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Now go out there and use this paradigm shift to your advantage.